Hare Krishna Katha, this is the overview of chapter 4. So, in chapter 3, Krishna explained in the last section of the chapter 3 that lust covers knowledge, and that we are in the bondage because of ignorance, so ignorance binds us. Then he recommends karma yoga for attaining transcendental knowledge. So karma yoga means engaging the results, offering the results of your work for the pleasure of the Lord. For example, you make some money and then you use large part of that money to support deity worship, to support book production, to support prasadam distribution. So that's karma yoga. Then after telling Arjuna to be transcendental with the help of knowledge, Krishna now in the 4th chapter explains what is that knowledge and how it is received. So in Krishna consciousness everything is scientific, everything is systematic, and Krishna is explaining. So in the verses 1 to 10, there is transcendental knowledge about Krishna described as the supreme authority and the one who is always sharing, or delivering knowledge to different devotees and different universal officers, high personalities in the universe. So Krishna said that he delivered this knowledge to the sun god Vivasvan, and then that he is now delivering it again to Arjuna. Why? Because Arjuna is Krishna's devotee and friend. Although Krishna is unborn, he appears again and again, and it looks like he is getting born. So he appears to re-establish religious principles, to protect his devotees, and to kill the demoniac. Anyone who understands this knowledge will attain love for Krishna and go back to Godhead at the end of this life. So this is the first section of the chapter 4. The second section is verses 11 to 15. Krishna, this section describes that Krishna is goal of all different paths. So there is, people try to realize Brahman, people try to realize Paramatma or Supersoul, and people try to realize Bhagavan. But Krishna is the goal of all these processes. So after giving knowledge about himself that leads to liberation, Krishna in this section explains how he is the ultimate goal of all paths and how everyone is dependent upon his mercy for attaining success. Also, in this section it is described that he has created Varnashrama system whereby men can fulfill their material desires and make progress toward liberation. And he also says that he is above this system. So Varnashrama means you engage according to your propensities, engage in devotional service. And now this fulfillment of material desires is very interesting for conditioned souls. So when conditioned souls hear about Varnashrama system, they see a hope that they can fulfill their material desires, but at the same time don't get degraded. So they make progress toward liberation or toward higher consciousness. So how one can fulfill material desires? According to Krishna's instructions, by engaging them in different activities, different spiritual activities, by spiritualizing them, For example, if you have a material desire to make money, you can make a lot of money and you can feel very good about it, but you can also use part of your money to support preaching and spreading the message about Krishna. Next section is called Karma Yoga, verses 16 to 24. So after explaining his position, which is transcendental, Krishna analyzes action and non-action and describes how to perform activities on the transcendental level. In the next section, 25th to the 33rd verse, Krishna is describing how sacrifices lead to transcendental knowledge. So you have heard about sacrifices. People do sacrifices to Kali, to Shiva, to Ganesh. And actually the purpose of sacrifices is to purify consciousness and to be able to understand and achieve transcendental knowledge. This is what even many people don't know. People think sacrifices are meant to fulfill my material desires. Of course, there is sacrifices with that purpose, but the ultimate purpose of sacrifices is to purify consciousness. So after describing how to act on the transcendental platform, Krishna describes a variety of sacrifices, especially in verses 25 to 33, because these sacrifices have transcendental knowledge, which is the theme of this chapter, as their ultimate goal. A sacrifice has already been discussed in Bhagavad Gita 3, 9 to 16, where Krishna explained that without sacrifice for Vishnu, one cannot live happily in this world. And also in the 9th verse of the 3rd chapter, it is said that if you don't do something as a yagya for Vishnu, then it will entangle you in the material world. This is the law of nature. And final part of the chapter 4, summary of transcendental knowledge, verses 34 to 42. Having explained that all sacrifices lead to transcendental knowledge, in this last section, Krishna describes various aspects of transcendental knowledge. So to attain transcendental knowledge, one must control the senses and submissively approach a spiritual master to render faithful service to him. Thus, one will become free from sinful reactions and understand knowledge of his relationship with the Supreme Lord, with the help of the spiritual master. Krishna urges Arjuna to arm himself with transcendental knowledge and fight. So, transcendental knowledge serves to slash the doubts, different doubts that conditioned souls have about God and about their relationship with God. And Krishna is recommending this. So this is the overview of chapter 4.